In the end, you're going to hurt everyone around you. You can't help it. So stop apologizing and accept it. Embrace it. Frankly, I'd have more respect for you if you did.
Hey everyone, and welcome to What Did I Miss? Wow, what a mid-season finale episode and cliffhanger moment. Much like its older brother Breaking Bad's final season, Better Call Saul is really ramping up the shocking moments in its final run. And I know that series creators Peter Gould and Vince Gilligan have plenty in store for the rest of the season. So first, I'm going to break down some of the vital moments in the 7th episode of Better Call Saul's 6th season, titled Plan and Execution, and then spend some time discussing what I think it will mean for the surviving characters and how it sets up the show's ending. But before I do, I thank you for clicking on this video and only ask that you hit that like button and the subscribe button if you enjoy it. The episode title, Plan and Execution, follows the trend of the naming convention used by the prior 6 episodes this season, in that 2 words are separated by and to create a cause and effect type expression. The principle of causation, generally referred to as cause and effect, has been the overarching theme of not only this season, but you could argue that it also has been so for the entire series. So it makes a lot of sense that the writers on Better Call Saul would put a greater focus on this by the way the episodes are named this season. This clever narrative technique is another leftover from Breaking Bad, as that series was also known for creating some type of connection or even a spoiler by using the names of their episodes, such as in the show's 2nd season, when the 1st, 4th, 10th, and 13th episodes showed brief clips of a disaster at Walter White's house that was later revealed to be a plane accident overhead. The titles of these 4 episodes together read 737 Down Over ABQ. The episode begins with a shot of Lalo in a sewer that is revealed to be across the street from Lavanderia Brillante, the laundry that is owned by Gus Fring and is where he is trying to build a meth lab. I am starting to think that Lalo is Better Call Saul's version of the Heisenberg character. Seeing Lalo so focused like this really reminded me of the state that Walter White was in during the second half of the last season of that series, when all he cared about was revenge. Not only does Lalo feel the same way now, but the events of this series have also put the most dangerous person left alive with nothing left to lose, similar to what occurred with Walter White. We also see that Lalo only takes 1-hour power naps, and this was something that he revealed to Nacho that he did in the season finale last season at his compound in Mexico before it was attacked.
Yeah, I never sleep much. An hour, maybe 2. It's enough.
After the intro, we find Saul in a hurry trying to wrangle the actor that he had hired as well as his film crew to do a reshoot. Saul finds the cameraman Joey teaching a class at a local college. This scene is very similar to how Saul was able to find Walter White on Breaking Bad after he had finished teaching his chemistry class in Saul's debut episode titled Better Call Saul. The crew stage a photo with the actor portraying the judge handing Saul an envelope on a park bench. This also has ties to Saul's first appearance on Breaking Bad, as not only was Saul's face displayed on a bus bench, but a crime was also staged there, in that case to fool the DEA. After developing the photos, Saul applies the drug that they had acquired from Dr. Caldera last episode to them so that Howard is affected when he touches them. Saul then rushes to throw the photos into the car of a PI, the same one that Howard had hired, revealing that he is on Saul's payroll. At HHM, Howard is getting the conference room ready when he is startled by an intern who drops some sodas on the ground. Howard then explains some weird trick about stopping shaken cans from exploding, which apparently is a real thing, and then explains how his mentor Chuck told him to prepare for anything. This conversation may have seemed like idle filler, but actually I think it has a lot of implications on how Saul is going to handle things going forward, which I will get into in a bit. Howard's secretary informs him that his PI needs to talk to him immediately, and after receiving the photos from him, Howard believes that the pictures may show a payoff. Before the meeting, Howard and Cliff meet with Irene Landry, who returns after not being seen since the 3rd season. She debuted in the 7th episode of the 1st season titled Bingo, and is the person responsible for the Sandpiper Crossing case and Saul's involvement in it, as it was after working with her to establish a will that Saul, then Jimmy, learned of the overcharging that she was being subjected to. Together they enter the conference room where Rich Schweikert is also sitting. His firm, Schweikert & Coakley, is where Kim worked for a period after HHM and was involved in not only the Sandpiper Crossing, but also the Mesa Verde case. Coincidentally, Rich Schweikert first appeared in the 8th episode of the 1st season of Better Call Saul, titled Rico, 1 episode after the debut of Miss Landry. I love when a series will bring back characters from prior seasons that shaped important events, and it feels like Better Call Saul is doing that this season. Finally, the judge walks in and Howard believes that he recognizes him as the same person that was in the photos provided by his PI. Howard starts to melt down as he accuses the judge of being in on a conspiracy against him, and his partners stand in shock. This scene is very similar to the courtroom scene in the 2nd season episode Nailed. in which Chuck falls victim to a con planned by his brother Jimmy during a hearing about Mesa Verde. In both cases, the victims have their sterling reputations questioned, which may be the real reason why Saul chooses to attack both men the way that he does. Saul feels like he cannot live up to the legend of Chuck or Howard, so in turn, he devised a plan that would destroy their aura of greatness and bring them down to his level. Because of Howard's behavior, Cliff is forced to accept a settlement offer from Sandpiper Crossing, and essentially Saul and Kim's plan works as they had planned. While this is going on, Lalo is still hiding in a storm drain like Pennywise and records a message for Don Eladio. It is interesting that Lalo would record a message instead of calling him directly, so it may be that Lalo believes that he may not survive, and if he doesn't survive, that he wants Don Eladio to know what really happened. Lalo then calls Hector at Casa Tranquila, but during the call notices a clicking noise that he correctly interprets as a recording. He goes all Kylo Ren on a folding chair and then regroups and calls back, telling Hector that he's planning on attacking Gus. This calls all of Gus's men to his location, which is exactly what Lalo had in mind. While he is thinking about what to do, he sees a cockroach on the ground, which I think reminded him of Saul, because of this line that Lalo said to Kim in the 5th season episode Bagman.
Your man, he's like the cucaracha, you know? Born survivor.
It is very fitting to tie that scene into this episode, because the fact that Kim put herself into Lalo's crosshairs by meeting him in jail then definitely set up the events that occur at the end of this episode. Mike warns Gus that they have intercepted a call from Lalo and that he needs to get Gus to safety. Mike even assures Gus that they have a trap set for Lalo, which I thought was pretty ironic, since it will be Gus that will be caught in a trap set by Walter and Hector at that same nursing home that they recorded the call from in the Breaking Bad 4th season finale of Face Off. Later that night, Saul and Kim are enjoying their victory when Howard comes over. He presents them with a bottle of Macallan Scotch whiskey, and this is the same type of liquor that he gave Chuck in the 3rd season episode Off Brand. If you have not noticed yet, there are a lot of callbacks to Chuck in this episode, and I do not believe that this is by accident. As Howard berates them as being soulless and missing something, critiques that he probably feels he could apply to himself, Lalo walks in. Both Kim and Saul are shocked, but Saul is especially surprised because he believes that Lalo is dead and even mutters the word "how" in disbelief. Even though Kim and Saul implore Howard to leave immediately, he doesn't and is shot dead by Lalo in cold blood. After being shot, Howard hits his head on the way to the ground as well. Now there are a lot of things to unpack here, so just bear with me. First, I think that the fact that Howard hits his head may be a clue as to how the scene is going to play out. I believe that the one thing that Kim and Saul have going for them here is that they know nothing about Gus, and that is all that Lalo cares about. Saul cannot tell Lalo anything about the meth lab, and at this point is not even aware of who Gus is in this equation. So I believe that Lalo will interrogate them, but after not finding anything will incapacitate them until he can carry out his final plan, leaving Kim and Saul with a dead Howard on their apartment floor. Since we know that they do not go to jail for this must mean that somehow they are able to cover this up. This season has set up Howard as a very lonely character who doesn't even live in his own house anymore after a failing marriage. I believe that Saul and Kim will be forced to stage Howard's death as a suicide, which is even more believable after the con that the two have played on him, since now all his colleagues believe that he is also a drug addict and having paranoid delusions. Let's also not forget that Howard's mentor Chuck also suffered from paranoia in public before he took his own life, making this story that much more believable. Speaking of suicide, it looks like the bullet hits Howard's head in close to or the exact same place that the bullet that killed Nacho hit his head earlier this season when he took his own life. Now, what does this mean for Kim and Saul's characters after this? Well, I firmly believe that there will be no going back for either character after this event because of their motivations. First, let's talk about Kim. The two scenes that we have witnessed the past 2 seasons of Kim as a child are very telling as to her personality. In the first scene, Kim would not get in a car with her mother knowing that she had been drinking. In this case, she has assessed her level of safety in the situation and what possible consequences could occur and chose not to proceed. In the second scene, we witness Kim after stealing a pair of earrings and her mother coming to pick her up from the store. That scene is very important because after Kim's mother arrives at the store, she basically cons the man into believing that they are a wholesome family so that Kim does not have to face any consequences. In this scene, Kim learned that by using a con, you can escape the consequences of your actions, and she has carried this belief into adulthood. But now she is facing a very real consequence of not only causing the death of Howard, but also ruining his reputation and his legacy. All the letters in HHM are now dead, and the fact that at least 2 partners are believed to have committed suicide is probably not a great way to attract more clients. And even though this was not planned, Kim will recognize that everything that happens to Howard is collateral damage of what she and Saul had planned, which is something that Saul may not allow her to forget. Saul is going to have a very different reaction to these events, especially after he learns that Kim knew that Lalo was alive. If you recall, Saul was willing to call off this con after learning of the judge's broken arm, and it was Kim that made him press on. I'm sure that Saul will stress that if he knew that Lala was still alive, that he would have never proceeded with their plan and would have instead worried about their safety. This could make Saul resent Kim for not being honest with him about Lalo, especially after it was so important to Kim that Saul be honest with her about what he is doing. But more importantly, I think that this will be what causes Saul to leave Kim after remembering Chuck's words about how he hurts everyone in his life.
Jimmy, this is what you do. You hurt people over and over, and in the end, you're going to hurt everyone around you. You can't help it, so stop apologizing and accept it.
I think that Saul will think about this conversation a lot and realize that if he keeps Kim in his life, that she will end up just like Howard and Chuck. So because of this, he will end their relationship and fully commit to a life in which he cares about no one but himself as Saul Goodman. Well, that was everything I saw, but let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please hit that like button if you have enjoyed it, and I will see you next time on What Did I Miss?